Everyone thought he was just an ordinary orphan, but he ends up saving the life of a very powerful vampire, who then becomes his master.
Mahiru lost his mother at a very young age.
As the burden of his mother's passing weighed on him, his relatives would talk amongst themselves, wondering who would look after this orphan now.
Mahiru felt like he would be engulfed in loneliness after his sorrow. But then, his uncle offered to adopt him. He placed his hand on Mahiru's head and said, "We are family, so it's only natural that I'll take care of you." Now, Mahiru is a high school student whose life philosophy is to do things logically and simply, just like his uncle. He doesn't wait for others to do something, instead, he takes the initiative himself. One day, he finds an injured cat on the street, brings it home, treats it, and adopts it. He names the sleepy, black cat Kuro, unaware that something dark and terrifying is hidden within this feline.
The next day, on his way home, his friends tell him about rumors of active vampires near the railway station and mention that 10 people have already had their blood drunk.
Mahiru doesn't believe these rumors and returns home.
However, as soon as he arrives, he's startled to find the TV on. He quietly enters and sees a fancy, emo-looking boy with deep dark circles under his eyes sitting comfortably in his house. He becomes very panicked and asks who he is and how he got into his house. He attacks the man with a broom, but the boy is very fast and easily dodges his attack. Just as Mahiru is about to attack him a second time, the curtain accidentally moves, and sunlight streams into the room. The moment the sun hits the boy, he instantly transforms back into the black cat, Kuro.
Mahiru is stunned by this strange event. As soon as he closes the curtain again, the cat transforms back into a human.
He screams and asks who he is. The boy replies that he is a kind and lazy vampire.
Mahiru gets scared and thinks his friends were right.
He tries to throw him into the sunlight. But Mahiru accuses him of attacking people around the railway station. However, the vampire says he knows nothing about it. Mahiru is trying to explain everything when the vampire says not to use his real name when he's in human form.
So, Mahiru jokingly asks him, "What if I call you Kuro?" And immediately, blue magical rings form around his hands and Kuro's neck.
Another energy circle forms on the ground, and as it disperses, all the rings enter it and then disappear.
Kuro is already tired and feeling depressed. Mahiru shakes him and asks, "What just happened?"
Kuro explains that he is a special kind of vampire bound to his master. He can only drink his master's blood, and the master's commands are final for him.
Kuro says that what just happened was a temporary contract, and if he doesn't drink Mahiru's blood within 24 hours, the contract will break. Mahiru feels relieved hearing this and throws Kuro out of the house to avoid any complications.
But as he starts to walk, an energy rope pulls him towards Kuro.
Kuro explains that they can no longer go far from each other because the contract binds them. Now, Mahiru has no choice but to bring Kuro back home. However, neither of them likes this agreement.
A little later, Mahiru brings Kuro to his friends. He tells them that the cat is actually a vampire. His friends start thinking he's tired, and one of them gives him his psychiatrist's number. As Mahiru is thinking about how to convince them, he sees a dark and very terrifying shadow in a mirror.
Then, a street magician suddenly appears in front of their group. One of Mahiru's friends ignores him and starts to walk away.
But the magician stops him and then suddenly bites him on the shoulder, scattering his blood everywhere. Everyone runs away from there, while the magician climbs onto a high pole and introduces himself as a vampire.
His name is Belia.
He knows that Mahiru had picked up a black cat vampire and challenges him to a duel.
As Belia dances, Kuro suddenly attacks with a surprise kick. Mahiru asks him, "What's going on here?"
But Kuro says they should run away because he doesn't want the hassle of fighting a vampire. Mahiru doesn't like this and tells Kuro to run away alone while he goes back to help his friends. Belia is about to attack them again, but Mahiru jumps on him, grabbing his head with all his might.
Belia mocks his effort and strikes him with a sword. However, Kuro moves in time and saves Mahiru's life. He throws Mahiru aside and pulls the sword out of his own chest. He says he hasn't drunk anyone's blood in 100 years, so he's too weak to fight Belia right now. Mahiru suddenly shoves his hand into Kuro's mouth and tells him to drink his blood. As Kuro drinks the dripping blood from his hand, their temporary contract becomes permanent.
A collar forms around Kuro's neck, connected by a chain to Mahiru's hand. The emo vampire gets a massive power boost and accepts Mahiru as his new master, now becoming his servant vampire.
Mahiru orders him to defeat the evil vampire, and Kuro starts his attack as commanded.
Just by moving his claws, he creates a powerful gust of wind that goes straight towards Belia.
Then he pounces on Belia and defeats him in a single blow. Kuro then picks up the injured Belia and tries to drink his blood. But Mahiru immediately pulls the chain and says, "That's enough." Belia curses them both, puts his hat back on, and instantly transforms into a doll. Mahiru picks him up and asks why he was trying to kill Kuro. Belia replies that it was his master Tsubaki's order. Kuro says he doesn't even know this Tsubaki. Belia says that no one knows Tsubaki, and that's why he is considered an enemy to everyone who doesn't know him.
Suddenly, the chain between Mahiru and Kuro disappears, and both collapse to the ground from exhaustion. When Mahiru opens his eyes, he's in his room, and Kuro is sleeping peacefully on his small bed. Mahiru immediately rushes to school, very worried about his injured friends. But to his surprise, his friends are perfectly fine. He says the police told him he had been in a car accident, but he doesn't remember much. Neither the injured friend nor any witnesses remember Mahiru being at the market or meeting a street magician vampire.
Mahiru senses that something strange is happening. When he returns home, he asks Kuro if he knows anything about Belia or his master, Tsubaki.
Just then, it suddenly starts raining from a cloudless sky, and Mahiru finds himself in a strange dimension. Suddenly, a crazy boy, who looks like a Bleach cosplayer, appears and starts laughing at Mahiru for no reason. The next moment, he secretly seals Mahiru's bag without telling him and pulls Belia out of it.
Belia calls the boy Tsubaki. Mahiru gets scared as he realizes he's facing a dangerous enemy. Tsubaki immediately approaches him. He picks up Kuro and throws him aside, causing him to transform into his human form. Tsubaki calls out to his older brother, and when Mahiru asks Kuro if he's telling the truth, Kuro directly says he has never seen that crazy boy. Tsubaki then starts laughing again, calling Kuro cruel for not knowing him. He then explains that there are 7 true vampires who can form contracts with humans and become servamps.
They are all siblings, based on the 7 deadly sins.
Kuro is the Servamp of Sloth, and Sloth is the eldest brother.
Tsubaki says there's another true vampire, referring to himself as the Servamp of Melancholy, the youngest of the 7 siblings, but no one believes him.
Mahiru becomes even more confused. But then, Tsubaki transforms into a black fox and jumps onto Mahiru's shoulder, bothering Kuro. Mahiru stops him and asks if he sent Belia to attack them yesterday. Tsubaki replies yes and says he loves killing people and vampires. Then he kicks Kuro hard.
Red flower petals emerge from his sleeve, forming a sword. He attacks Kuro with the sword, but Kuro blocks it with his shadowy claws. Mahiru tells Kuro to drink some blood for instant energy, but Kuro refuses, even as Tsubaki pushes him down and steps on him. Tsubaki throws him away and then picks up Mahiru, declaring that he has waged war against all vampires, just for his own amusement.
Mahiru realizes that this boy is truly mentally unstable and needs a psychiatrist because he isn't understanding anything. In that moment, Mahiru remembers his past when he was very sad after his mother's death. Everyone around him was good, but he still didn't feel at peace. His uncle had told him to acknowledge and face his feelings, only then could he make progress. Now, Mahiru tells the same thing to Tsubaki. He announces that he will give him a name and his blood. He will make him his servamp and then stop him from waging war against other vampires. Tsubaki laughs, saying, "You'll die before that happens." He strikes Mahiru with his sword, but Kuro arrives in time and saves his life. As Tsubaki strikes, Mahiru and Kuro suddenly vanish. Tsubaki thinks Mahiru is an interesting boy and leaves. Meanwhile, Kuro tells Mahiru that another servamp saved their lives. Suddenly, a twin pair arrives, saying their master wants to meet Mahiru and his servamp. Kuro doesn't want to go, so he transforms into a cat. But then, a rich boy arrives on his throne, and Mahiru tells him he has no other option, he has to go with him. They get into his limo,
where the boy introduces himself. He says his name is Misono, the master of the Servamp of Lust. They quickly reach Misono's house, and a butterfly sitting on his head turns out to be a Servamp. Misono slaps the butterfly on the head and introduces it as Snow. He then takes Mahiru and Kuro inside, and as they enter a closed room, they start showing their true intentions. Here, Snow transforms back into a butterfly and goes to suck Misono's blood, which summons his death scythe and unleashes his full power. Misono's behavior immediately changes, and he calls Mahiru useless for not even knowing how to use his Servamp. He tells Mahiru to become his Servamp.